Hello, this is Jim Mitchell, and we're back with another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast. Let's get right into it. Guest urged to be vaccinated at anti-vax or RFK Jr.'s party. It actually says anti-gay sip. I think they meant anti-vax sip. Well, I guess, yeah. So, and that's from Whittling Dan. That's a post from the Herman Cain Award subreddit, and which was a post of a tweet from a Noah Smith. It's difficult to overstate what absolute utter charlatans these people are, and then he links to a story from The Guardian, guest tree, the cover story. And I said, what did I say? I said, RFK Jr. kind of strikes me as a poser, like Trump, but I would still prefer him getting nomination to Biden. Yeah, the thing is that I definitely think he's trying to ride off his last name a little. I definitely, I think if he wasn't a candidate, I'd probably support him. But yeah, I think the thing is that he's just trying to appeal to a lot of like the libertarian crowd. But I think he's fundamentally just a normie like the rest of them. That's why you shouldn't trust normies. That's what I say. You gotta trust the real autistic people. Not the normies like RFK Jr. Then we have the lesson of World War One, Iraq, Libya, and countless other wars is that toppling a regime can lead to one that's much worse. So many people demonstrated that they haven't learned their lesson. The lesson this morning, even when the regime in question has the largest nuclear arsenal in the world history. And that was Dave Smith on Twitter, and I posted that, and I said, Putin is bad, but who comes after him would probably be worse. We thought Saddam was bad, and who came after him? What came after him was worse. For the rise of ISIS. Then we thought Gaddafi was bad, but what came after him was worse for like the constant civil war. And that's the thing is that people are sometimes strongmen are bad, but sometimes it's not the job of the U.S. to overthrow them and then put them into put countries into a state of constant civil war or strife or another authoritarian strongman. That's not the job of the U.S. That's the job of the Russian people or whatever country we're talking about. Then we have Arnold is a unique guy, but you're right. Even Arnold's accurately identifying the capitalist fascist movement within the Republican Party establishment. And that's a tweet from Variety. It says, Arnold Schwarzenegger to anti-Semites and other hate groups. There has never been a successful movement based on hate. Nazis, losers. The Confederacy, losers. The apartheid movement, losers. I don't want you to be a loser. I don't want you to be weak. I would disagree with Arnold there. I think all successful movements have been based on hate to some extent. Definitely based on some kind of emotion. They might say they're about love, but I think everything has been based on just general more emotion stuff than really just hate or anything. But I guess you could define anything you want to be hate. That's what we increasingly see these days. People are defining whatever they want to be hate, and even if you disagree at all, that's apparently hate. And I think that's just why it's gone too far. You're not allowed to disagree at all without them coming after you for it. So you're a member of a hate group. You're not allowed to disagree. That's the thing, and they'll come after you for it, and that's why I think of that issue. Then we have prostitution, the truest form of capitalism, another Tri-Town one. That's from the shit liberals say subreddit. So I'm gonna take this one with a grain of salt. That's like the neo-communist over there, and I think I personally support sex work, but I definitely would say it's a lot of extent is the truest form of capitalism. But I think you should. I think I kind of would agree with that to some extent. I think you should be able to sell yourself if you want to, and that is something I would agree with. 5 years ago was always a better place, regardless of what time history you're at. And I tweeted that, and I posted that tweet. It was a response to She Won't Head meme that she posted, and it was about the 2013 to 2017 timeline. It's the guy with it's the Wojak with the dark aura, and he's all this dark. And then in the 2018 2023 timeline, it's basically he's still the dark aura, but he's talking about how 2013 and 2017 was also happy. The thing is that some people might say, "Oh, what about slavery? What about how people used to be forced institutions?" People will justify some weird stuff. But people in the past, things turn out okay. I think that's what's always important to remember. In the past, things turn out okay. That's why more people are more afraid of the future than the past, because things are gonna turn out okay. And yeah. So that's my thoughts there. So next we have these people, all blue checks, are celebrating a seemingly MAGA assault on federal officers. Now, I don't know what this really is, but take a gander at the comments of the Patriots Who Love America. That's a tweet from Adam Kinzinger. And that's when they masked the feds, the Fed Patriots with their mask, and they were really just feds. And I said, he actually confirmed they were feds, LMFAO. That's the thing. No, this is how bad it's getting. They can't even hide the fact that they're feds anymore. They're just, if you're wearing a mask outside in the summer, you're probably a fed. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. Zelensky rules out holding presidential elections in Ukraine if Ukraine wins the conflict, from Jane Addams on Twitter, and I posted that. I said, Lincoln was very authoritarian in the Civil War, but at least he didn't cancel elections using it as a pretext like this guy. Watch the democracy-loving leftists defend this. They love democracy unless people vote the wrong way, and then they say it's rigged, despite also saying you shouldn't question election results. Yeah, so, yeah, I definitely think, I think they should try and at least uphold the facade of democracy, I would say. I kind of agree there, damn if they do, damn if they don't. But, you should at least try and uphold the facade of democracy rather than just say, oh, I'm dictator for life, war for authoritarianism is all justified. Greg Abbott duped by fake news story mocking Garth Brooks. This is a real elected official from Newsweek.com by Donald Key. And that is how he posted a story from the Dunning-Kruger Times on Twitter. That just goes to show you, these elected officials, they think just checking a box next to their name just gives them legitimate authority. They're no better than you and me. We're just blue pills. It's just, or not blue pills, whatever. Just average Joes. And they're just kind of average Joes too, is what they want you to think. They don't have legitimate authority over us, and I think we need to remember that, despite and it doesn't matter what party they are, I don't think they have legitimate authority over us. If you want to give them say, oh, they have legitimate authority over us, I think you should be able to do so. I don't think you should be forced to do so. I'm against forced collectivism, and that's essentially what the American democratic process is. It's forced collectivism. They all told me it's tough again, especially as an Asian American, from FoxNews.com. My circles working. This headline is Asian Americans do a 1590 SAT score rejected by 6 elite colleges, blames affirmative action. I would agree there. Yeah. Then we have anyone that supports Trump cannot be considered libertarian, from r/Trump tweets. This is by a geeky username, and this is Donald Trump truthing. Christians have been under siege under this Biden administration. Never will federal law enforcement use to target religious believers. Americans of faith are not a threat to our country. Americans of faith are the soul of our country. And I personally, I think, if you want to consider yourself a libertarian and support Trump, you think you should be able to. But I think these people, I personally would kind of agree that, Trump supporters aren't really that libertarian. I think you should be able to consider yourself a libertarian and support anyone you want to. But you have to realize that not everyone might accept who you support as being libertarian. And that's my thought there. Then we have Know Your Authoritarian Fascist Capitalist Nazi Symbols from Chi-Town 20, and that is a tweet of symbols, and then they have how one of the symbols kind of looks like the stage at CPAC. I guess that's kind of an agenda post, but, People love to, but there might be dog whistles. It's just how it might be. But or maybe they're just maybe they're just made a stage shape and didn't realize it. Who knows? Gas stations are leaking underground from grist.org by Rusty Slowman. And I would agree, but I would say it's up to the people. That's not good, but I would think it's up to the people to regulate the gas stations and not that of the government. If they pollute the environment and people don't have the resources to stop them, that's just how it is sometimes. You can't save everyone. We operate under this delusion that we can save everyone, but sadly, we can't do that. That would be require like this massive authoritarian network to save everyone, and I don't think it's worth it. Then we have Brian. One, seeing a man naked on a bike isn't going to have much of an impact on any kid. They have likely seen their father or brother naked before, and that's from Brian Krasn's down Twitter. And I said, I'm libertarian. I don't think public nudity should be illegal. If that said, I know that this were conservative who's naked. People like Krasenstein would be yelling about indecent exposure. I think the LGBT community should probably remember that normalizing stuff like being naked in public and chatting stuff like, we're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children, might be too fast for a number of people. That's important to remember. It's just, yeah, it's just, you just can't be naked all the time and say, and in front of kids and say, oh, I shouldn't be stigmatized at all. That's the thing is, they just want you to kind of like not question anything they do. And sometimes, no one is immune from being questioned. That's why I always say, you should always question everything, even if you agree with it. That's my thoughts there. And speaking of that, I have a tweet from Hannah Cox. Like it or not, information has been democratized. So yes, you do have to debate the YouTubers, the podcasters, and the everyday Americans if you want to win out in the marketplace of ideas. And I posted that, and I said, agreed. No one else is entitled to anybody else's faults and opinions. You have every right to believe whatever you want, and if you wanna debate, you need to win in the marketplace of ideas and not just say, "Oh, you're entitled. I'm entitled to your beliefs." No, you need to support free speech and free discussion and let people think for themselves. Even if they're complete idiots, you should be allowed to be complete idiots as long as they're not violating that. That's my thoughts there. LP of NH is at it again. This is that was a post from Ninja Lover, and they tweeted Martin Luther King was a violent socialist that absolutely meant no justice, no peace as a threat, abolish the entire civil rights agenda. Well, I personally like Martin Luther King Jr. I think he was a little bit more of a socialist communist, as they say, economically, but I definitely agree with a lot of his social stuff. I think today he'd probably be considered more right wing because he wasn't the biggest on the LGBTQ community back in the '60s. So, but his views might have evolved. So we'd have to question how that would have happened too. I personally think he'd probably would have been more conservative, socially more liberal economically, kind of like someone like Shoe on Head. But I guess we'll never know for sure since the FBI hired someone to take him out. And yeah, I personally think this is the LPNH did go a little too far, but I think you should be able to express yourself, and that's expressing yourself, and you should be able to do that if you want to. Marjorie Taylor Greene implies she thinks she's being spied on via her TV, and that's from TheGuardian.com. And I said, MTG is a bit crazy, but the world's government and private megacorps has been shown that they will spy on you for any means necessary, and that includes for any products you may own. And we have noticed that the article does not even pretend to present the opposing view. That this is the difference between having a bias and having an agenda. From Michael Mouse on Twitter, and I posted that. And I said, what was it was an article from The Hill. New York has passed a new safe haven law protecting access to gender-affirming medical care for transgender minors. I said, everyone has an agenda, I would say, no matter how much they would tell you otherwise. I think it's, I think the article should have discussed drugs to different care. It might have unintentional side effects, and just because a doctor does something doesn't mean it's inherently good. They used to give out lobotomies and forcibly sterilize people, and don't forget all the overdoses they've prescribed that have killed tons of people over the years. So, it's always important to question the medical community, even though it clearly thinks it's above question these days. That is not the case. Hamburger Mary's wins court victory against Ron DeSantis' drag ban. The judge called the law vague and overbroad, saying it could apply to burlesque shows or skit at a family BBQ. These one will be important to our SO, and that's from LGBTNation.com. I would link Dan, and I said, I think, I kind of would agree with the judge there. I definitely think, we shouldn't be giving the authority license to do whatever it wants when it comes to free expression, as long as NAP isn't being violated. I do think you could argue that strip shows for kids could be considered a NAP violation, but I personally wouldn't consider it to be such because, kids are going to be exposed to some fucked up stuff, but if you're not hurting them or molesting them, I think, that's just how it is sometimes. Life is very fucked up. People are mean, and people are increasingly trying to spread sexual stuff towards kids, but sometimes, you just can't stop it because they have too much social capital. Then we have Bjorn Lomborg, actions that will do more good than wasting trillions on climate change, from John Stossel. And I think that was a good video. He says get rid of the more diseases in the third world. I think climate change is more hyped up because it can be hyped up more as an existential threat to control people. But I think the poor. I like what Lomborg says: support the poor by getting rid of diseases like tuberculosis in the third world. Mike Pence, don't abandon free market principles, from Reason.com. And that's interesting. I don't really think he cared too much about free market principles when he was in office. With all of his Trump's tariffs, but we'll see how it plays out. I don't think he's probably going to get very far, especially if the national abortion ban he's proposing. Pride Seattle, adults encourage children to throw bricks at pictures of Republicans, from Post Millennial on Twitter.com. And I posted that, and I said, it's free expression. I don't think it should be illegal, but could you imagine what Reddit would say if this was pictures of Dems? That's the thing. Most people only have double standards, especially when it comes to stuff like this. Then we have all of you who went, FB Twitter or private companies, bro. All apologies from LP Michigan on Twitter, and I posted that, and I said, fascism, it's a quote from Benito Mussolini, fascism should more properly be called corporatism because it's a measure of state and corporate power, and that's releasing Benito Mussolini. And that's why I think it's happening. The government is increasingly controlling the courts through stuff like ESG, and you won't be able to convince me otherwise. That's why I think, we are increasingly seeing an authoritarian system where the big government and big business are increasingly just one entity, and you're seeing that these days. And that's why I think you're going to see that get more pronounced as time goes on. Then we have Moore v. Harper decision. Supreme Court upholds North Carolina ruling that congressional districts violate state law, from Eastern U7 New York.com by Ninja Lover. And I said, I guess I would support it because I guess well, in some ways I'd support the states being able to make their own election laws, but I guess the federal government would just say as well. I personally don't think there should be elections at all, so I don't really care too much. Then I have a tweet I sent. Disagree. Tanstoffel is more. There ain't no such thing as free lunch. Tanstoffel is more libertarian policy than conservative one. If there is one thing you can count on the GOP doing, it's being where the Dems were 10 years prior, and that's from Jay Mitchell. And that's why his response to J.G. McCall saying the Republican Party might be going more economically populist, but he's well, I said they might because they're usually trying to catch on the trends of 10 years prior, and I think Bernie Sanders' 2016 presidential campaign is almost 10 years old at this point, so I think they'll try and hop on that train. Yeah, I said you also do have the UGP act libertarian sometimes, but usually it's just virtue signaling. And that's when I said I saw the headline, GOP wants to ban FBI. That's just kind of virtue signaling. I hate the FBI as much as the next guy, but they're just gonna. I think they'll just fall in line if Trump ever gets, or Trump or another Republican gets back in office and say, "Oh, the FBI, we can reform it." No, you can't reform the FBI, CIA, or any of the other else. You got to get rid of it entirely. That's what I think all of the U.S. government. You got to get rid of it entirely. It's unenforceable at this point. Just maybe start a new one. I would say. We have Steuben County Sheriff from Matt Hole 1. I don't really know what the point of this video is. But yeah, I guess I'll just skip it for now. Then we have capital gains taxes destroy wealth from Compton's soapbox. I posted that, and I said, and yeah, I definitely think we shouldn't be justifying taxes at all, especially ones that don't adjust for inflation, like capital gains tax. The Supreme Court decides not to destroy democracy in the United States from Vox. That's of course their thanks for the Moore v. Harper decision. And of course, I said Vox is like MSM. They didn't have to pretend they hide their agenda at all. It sounds like Reddit wrote the headline. That's why I think you'll see more of in the future. Social media writing the headlines instead of the traditional media. They just want attention. Then finally, we have reminder that things you regard as absurd and unthinkable today will be described as routine and mandatory within a few years without radical change to your Smith hand from Michael Mouse on Twitter. I posted that. I said, and most people go along with anything if it fits their narrative enough. And one guy said, Will Power says, social conservatives still try applying little gays coming for you live 50 years later. He said, people like you don't question how the line moves at all. If someone like Travis said mature minors consent to sex, enough people went along with it, I'm sure you would too. So, that's the thing, people, if a lot of people jump off a bridge, a lot of people would jump off a bridge and do too. And, that's the thing. So that's important to remember. And I think we're, gonna wrap it up there, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.